I did okay.
By the way, now we are live, guys. So welcome to Wholesale Hotline number 86. We just went on for about 3 minutes. We apologize, guys. We just hit the live button, and we are excited. We've got Kristina Aguilera here from St. Louis. I mean, I don't know. I mean, have you done over 10,000 deals? I don't know what it is. You own like a bazillion houses. You've done like more deals than, I mean, it's just your resume is absolutely bananas. Will you kind of give everybody just a quick heads up on where you do business and what that looks like?
Yeah, so my name's Kristina Aguilera. I'm originally from Miami, but I live in St. Louis, Missouri. And I wholesale, I fix and flip, and I do rentals here in St. Louis.
And how many rentals do you own?
270 something.
270 and some change?
Yeah, I mean, we just did closing last week and this week, so I just
awesome.
What an absolute badass you are, Kristina. I've never owned over 200 rentals before. I think we've had Zach Keeps on the show one point, the only person I know that's had that many rentals, and we consider him one of the goats here in Phoenix. And you know, there's Kristina out there in St. Louis just sleeping, just like we're all sleeping on it.
Sanity.
We don't even, you know, and truly, you're one of the most prolific female entrepreneurs in this space, because she's been going at it so hard in a predominantly male dominant arena. Kristina has shown, look, this has nothing to do with gender. This has to do with how well you work, how consistent you are, and if you know your shit. And she's been crushing it, you know, day after day, week after week, year after year. And I think it's just incredible to have you on here, Kristina. It's a long time coming.
Thank you. I'm glad we finally made this happen. You know, I love you guys so much. I'm always like impressed by the stuff that you guys do and the content that you guys put out. I feel like for a very long time, I haven't really been showing up just because I've been in the hustle and the grind. So I'm excited to finally be here.
That's awesome. Well, there's going to be a lot of questions coming at you, Kristina, so get ready. Pacer, how are you, brother? I love the new statue. Is that a new golden sub 2 statue? Look at that thing.
Yes.
Man, are those awards? Are you giving those away?
It's my hand. Kristina, question for you. Pistol Pete says, does Kristina do mentoring in St. Louis?
So I do open up my office. My office is in Florissant, and then I have another office in the Central West End. So I open up my office. If anybody wants to come and like just see what we do, we can definitely do that. But yeah, I don't mentor one-on-one or anything like that. I'm not great.
So what she's saying is you can come be a fly on the wall, but if you get annoying, you go splat.
And you didn't pay me, so I can make those kind of rules.
Got it. Fair enough.
That is fair. When did you get started, Kristina?
So this is going to be my 7th year.
Wow.
So I'm going into my 7th year. The first part of my like business was mostly wholesaling because I went all in. I literally spent like $90,000 in education. So I didn't have any money to do anything else. So I just wholesaled.
So you started off in wholesale, and then, you know, it's interesting that you get to this spot where you own this many doors. Would you mind just giving us a little bit of a bird's eye view as to how you acquired these houses? Are you a cash position on all of them? Have you got leverage, or is it private money? What's your methodology for being able to amass such an impressive volume of rentals, Kristina? Because it's incredible.
Yeah, so honestly, I always like push it all the way back to like the wholesaling days because I got so good at analyzing the deals. That's what I got really, really good at. I created like a deal analyzer, and I learned like the expenses and the income and all that process. That's what I got really, really good at from the jump. And so I learned like what was a good deal very early on. So when I was in the position to actually buy something, it was very easy for me to pull the trigger at that point. My first property was $10,000 in a neighborhood called Castle Point. And at that point, I literally didn't know anything about being a landlord. So I'm like, okay, like let's turn this into a seller finance deal because I have zero idea what I'm going to do. So I turned that $650 paying tenant into a $450 actual cash flow because at that point I didn't have no expenses. So that was like really, really important. But yeah, as far as the portfolio goes, it's cash from wholesale assignment fees. That I reinvested. I leverage private money, so most of my portfolio does have private money. And then I have another sliver of it is partnerships. So about 45 doors are in partnerships. I think I'm at like 60 something that's free and clear, and then the rest is private money.
Amazing. So I've got a number of students that are in Missouri. I've got people from all over the country that are in markets like St. Louis. And I wanted to ask you a question because I think that in areas like St. Louis, these are predominantly buy and hold
Correct.
towns, right? It's the property values are low enough where it doesn't make sense to spend $30,000-$40,000 fixing the place up and turning a deal into a fix and flip. They're typically going to be fix and rent. And so, Kristina, so that we can simplify this for the people that are looking at buying hold investors as buyers for these types of deals, for every $100,000 I spend, am I looking to get back $1,500 a month in gross rents, or is it $2,000 a month in gross rents, or is it $1,000 a month in gross rents? What's the multiple? What are you buying at?
Yeah.
So the way I analyze is based on return on investment. So I take I basically get my net income divided by my all-in purchase price. So that's how I analyze my deals. So I want to be at like 16% minimum. And then obviously like in higher crime areas or I want to be over 20 just because of the risk and turnover.
Gross or net?
Net.
Kristina,
Wow,
are you differing from a cash on cash return in that strategy of analyzing? How is that different?
So I'm taking in all the purchase price. So I have three metrics that I look at. The first thing is to look at return on investment as an all-in purchase price. So that's if I pay an assignment fee to someone, if I, whatever repairs. So I look at deferred maintenance up front. So anything that I have to fix in the next 5 years, I take into account now. Even if I'm not going to go and spend that money, it's just something that's going to happen in 5 years. So I won't be able to build up those reserves in 5 years just from cash flow.
Got it. So, Jamel, how would you reverse engineer that?
So basically what she's saying,
I got net income over all in purchase price.
Yeah, over all in purchase price.
16 to 20% depending on location.
20 in higher crime, which means if we're going to talk.
I said I have the equation.
So yeah, well tell I want to look at this in a way that's digestible to people, and they like to look at it for every $100,000. What's the gross rents that we should be bringing in?
So in St. Louis, it really depends, but 100 could get you about $1,200 a month.
100,000. Well, is that net or gross though?
That's gross. So that's like whatever the rent point is at that point. So I don't buy houses even that expensive, just to be honest with you. That's why I've been able to build such a big portfolio. My average all-in purchase price is $45,000.
Got it. And what I'm trying to do, Kristina, is I'm trying to reverse engineer it so people know what to look for in those price points, in those markets, in those neighborhoods, so that they know, so that they don't have to look through it through the lens of, oh, this has to be a fix and flip. It needs too much or whatever else. It's not going to fit the criteria. So you're saying,
yeah. The high crime rate, though, 50,000 would get you back $2,000 a month in rent.
So right? Usually I've like gotten
$1,000 a month in rent. Okay.
So I mean, I have duplexes in like the parts of the city that I'm like all in for like 75,000, and the building makes me I'm like I collect 1,800 a month, so I'm like net right at 1,200 or 1,300. Yeah, because my taxes are really low in St. Louis. My in the city, my water bill, if it's not like separated, because a lot of the duplexes don't have separated meters. So usually you just pay one quarterly bill, and it's actually really cheap. So I mean, here's the thing. I'm not telling anybody to like come into St. Louis and like buy stuff, because there's a lot of areas that you probably shouldn't buy in if you're not educated enough. But these are the kind of markets where you have a lot of opportunity.
Awesome.
Yeah, great stuff. So, Kristina, with respect to being able to get into a market like St. Louis in a creative fashion, right? Because I know there's a ton of sub-2 students that are looking for places where they can go in and get good opportunity, maybe get some seller finance or owner finance deals. Are those types of opportunities available? And should people literally start coming to St. Louis to talk to homeowners to see if they can engineer those kinds of deals?
I mean, just like with Pace's strategy, like you can do sub-2 anyway. So the cool thing about St. Louis in general is like we have a big rental opportunity, but I also flip here. I mean, there's $350,000, $500,000 houses. Like it's not just cheap houses. Oh, Bosco's on here. I literally bought a duplex from Bosco for $25,000 that I rent out. Each side makes, I think it's like $7. So total income for the building is $1,300 for that building.
Wow. 25K got you 1,300.
I mean, I had a lot of deferred maintenance, so I had like $15,000 or $20,000 in rehab on that one.
Incredible. Pace?
That's a phenomenal return. A phenomenal return. I love that. I mean, $25,000 into the property, $20,000 deferred maintenance. So you were probably all into it after closing costs, $50,000. Bringing in $1,200 or $1,300 a month is amazing. I freaking love that. Question here. Nicholas Blazil says, question for PB&J. When you're ready for it, what do you think is the most effective approach for using door knocking to find deals? Kristina, have you ever done door knocking, or does your team ever do any door knocking?
My first deal came from door knocking.
Isn't that interesting? I saw Brent Daniels post it. Actually, I saw Deal Machine post this on their Instagram. They took a quote of Brent's, which I've requoted this 100 times. Brent says that nearly 70%, 80% of all new investors get their first deal from driving for dollars, door knocking, or basically being in them streets,
hustling,
being out in them streets, hustling. So his question is, do you have the most effective approach for door knocking to find deals? I want to create a system that I can do and teach others to do. So do you guys mind if I do some self-promoting for a second?
Go, brother.
Okay. So I have a student that had the idea. He said, it's quarter 4. We're going into the last quarter of the year. Why don't we do a challenge? Like get all of the students, get all of the wholesale hotline people, get all the Sunday service people. And why don't we do a challenge to find 50 people that have never done a deal before? And we get out in the streets and we as a community help those people go get their first deal using driving for dollars and other really basic low cost methods. So guys, there's a link. It's a free challenge. We're starting it on October 18th. That's next Monday, a week from today. We already have 1,000 people signed up for it. And we are going to go out and help 50 brand new investors get their very first deal by doing this, answering your exact question. The way we're going to be doing it is what I did on Sunday, where I went on IG Live and I just started knocking doors. And I put my phone in my pocket and I was like, guys, stop overthinking this. Just watch me knock these doors. So we're not going to just do door knocking. We're going to do a lot of driving for deals. We're going to do texting and cold calling and stuff like that. But we're going to show you guys how basic this is. And Kristina, your first deal was door knocking or driving for deals. Like, is it that really that hard?
No. I think you just have to get over the fear of it. It's like,
and how do you do that?
You just do it.
Is it better if you go with somebody, like you have a battle buddy, or maybe like doing it during a challenge, or feeling like you're going around with other people hanging out and having fun?
I mean, I think that sounds great.
How did you do it?
I did it by myself, and I was alone.
In St. Louis?
Yes, I was alone in St. Louis.
Guys,
Go.
No, I want to point out just like what she's saying. First and foremost, I personally would nothing against St. Louis. St. Louis is a beautiful place, but I would have a little bit of fear being outside by myself, knocking doors in St. Louis. But again, you know, if push comes to shove and you have to do it, you do it, right? Here we are. We got Kristina over there. She's all of 5'2". If you guys don't know Kristina, she's a tiny little thing,
maybe 100 pounds.
Yeah, and if she can get out there and knock
I
doors,
weigh more than 100 pounds.
if she can get out there and knock doors and be fearless, then I think that just sets the bar.
But look at this, Jamil.
But I was fearful.
Wait.
I was actually fearful.
Right, but you sucked it. You sucked up your courage. You went out there. You were like, okay, I'm going to do this. There's something inside you, Kristina, that's like, I'm going to make this happen. From that day to this day is 7 years. 7, everybody. Are you kidding me? 7 years. She's got 270 plus doors. She's doing flips and wholesaling all over the place. 7 years from knocking a door to now. Are you kidding me? Like, oh, I mean, this is real life. When you start out and you source real estate opportunities, you will win. When you have those quality conversations with distressed property owners, you will win. It starts with sourcing deals. It starts with finding them. It starts with finding that or finding the people that already have them, right?
100%.
Yeah, and that's where you start out. And as you start building momentum, all of a sudden you have other opportunities. If you're out there knocking doors or calling people, people are going to like that energy. They're going to want to be around you. You're going to be a magnet. They're going to throw money at you to keep this thing going, keep this fire going. And that's exactly what's happened, right, Kristina? I mean, I assume that at some point somebody caught the eye of whoever, or maybe you just funded it yourself. I don't know. But you started really just going bananas with buying all these properties and flipping.
Yeah.
And it started with door knocking.
And someone put, I think one of the comments came up here and they were like, she said that she got really good at sourcing deals. And that's exactly what I did. I got so good at sourcing deals that I could bring deals to landlords that they weren't able to get themselves, or they weren't available on the MLS. And that turned into like the biggest partnerships and the biggest opportunities for me with people that I was just wholesaling to, like my buyers.
Your cash buyers.
Which became her business partners, right? It's incredible.
How many cash buyers? I mean, you know all the cash buyers.
Yeah, our lists are crazy.
Yeah.
But Kristina, I love where we're headed with this, and because it's such an incredible story in a short amount of time, from just a solopreneur out there in the world grinding and hustling, knocking on doors, to today over 200 doors. Talk to us a little bit about what your operation looks like today. What's your main methods of lead generation? How are you generating your deals now? Are you continuing to wholesale? Are you mainly focusing on passive investments? Let's start with what are you doing for lead gen today?
Cold calling.
Tell us about that operation. How many people, VAs, what's it look like?
So I only have 2 cold callers. They're full time. And then one of them is calling more. So both of them are generating leads from general, like just wide lists, just like everyone, just opportunities, period. So, and then we do pull some niche lists, mostly evictions. That's been my sweet spot, just because I've, again, gotten really good at what the landlord's problems are and what the landlord needs. And obviously, especially during a period of time like this, I mean, evictions are happening and they're going slow. And so I'm willing to buy stuff that, someone might have not collected rent on, and then just taking over that problem. So I've been buying a lot of like non-paying tenant rentals over the last year.
Awesome. And it's 2 cold callers. Are they local? Are they VAs?
So they're so my 2 cold callers are from the Philippines. Then I have a follow-up specialist that is in the Philippines. And then I have an acquisitions manager who's virtual. So she's actually physically not here, but she is in America.
So and she could very well be in the Philippines as well then, if you really wanted it to be.
She's one of my friends.
Is it just still you by yourself in your office then? It's just one, you're just hanging out?
I self-manage the rental portfolio. So I use virtual assistants. I use virtual assistants to run the property management company. So I have six employees in that, all virtual assistants, and an executive assistant. But yeah, I mean, as far as the wholesaling goes, and then I have a really big joint venture on the wholesaling side that's generating about 6 to 8 deals a month.
Yeah, it's great. She's the richest girl in Babylon.
I
It's
wish.
incredible.
I'm rich in health, in relationships, and all those things.
I mean, and also in your business, Kristina. Let's not just gloss over,
Yeah.
guys. What she's
Yeah,
saying
let's not
is,
water this down.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
come on, knock it off. All right, there's humble and then there's ridiculous. Okay.
Honestly, I love wholesaling. I love wholesaling. I would never stop wholesaling. That's like my favorite thing.
How long did it take for you to understand this is a deal? You know what I mean? That's the biggest hurdle that we face when we're starting. Is this a deal or not a deal? And how big of a deal is it? How long did it take? And what did you do? What did you do to practice or understand the comparables? Did you have somebody guiding you? What did that look like?
So I'm going to be honest with you. It's the same thing that I did in like my healing journey when I was like getting real spiritual and like figuring out my life and all that stuff. I just went all the way in. Like when I started working with the spiritual guide and stuff, like I literally was doing 3 sessions a week and it was exhausting, but that's what I had to do to break through. Right. And that's exactly what I did in my business. Was I literally was talking to sellers constantly. I was talking to property managers constantly. Like, what does your buyers want? What is it that they're looking for? How are they analyzing deals? And that's what I got really good at. I got really good at asking questions and receiving feedback. I think a lot of times wholesalers now, and I'm very, very careful when I give someone any feedback because everyone's so defensive. Like, okay, first of all, like, I mean, that's fine. You ran your numbers. I get it. But I'm just giving you feedback because I've been doing this for a while. So now I just ask the question a little bit better. And I'm like, are you open to feedback? Because I just don't want anybody to have, a heart attack because I told them that they didn't, it doesn't matter how much the tenant can pay. It matters how much they're paying right now. They're under a lease and it doesn't expire for a year. So you can't really just make
Are you open to feedback? It's so funny. It's like come to that you have to ask for permission to give somebody some really good advice about their property.
Yeah, but that's where we're at.
People get all sorts of butthurt about that kind of stuff. It really is really, really interesting. Couple of good questions. How do you find an eviction list? So
evictions are filed through the court system. So it's just like filing, like getting a probate lead or a divorce lead. So however you would get a probate lead in your county is probably how you would get an eviction list.
It's really interesting. Like even with code violations, I think a lot of people overthink this stuff. I bet you guys I could get a code violation list of 5,000 code violations in less than 45 seconds for free, right? Like it's so simple. Is it that simple for you and you're in St. Louis, like getting code violations or eviction lists? Like, is it that simple or do I have to physically go down there to get the data?
So for us, we have to manually, I have a virtual assistant that goes in and manually pulls. We do have an online database, but it's actually very, very tedious because it doesn't have the actual owner's name on the case filing, especially if like a property manager filed the case against the tenant or if there's a representative of some sort. So you have to it's like a whole process. But I mean, it's no different than the stuff that I had to do when I was getting a foreclosure list. Like I had to hustle and I had to figure it out. And I was reading the foreclosure paper. I mean, like you just do what you got to do. If you want this, you're going to do it.
That's a good point. And it really is that simple. So you get the eviction list. What do you do with it? Do you skip trace it? And then what do you do?
So my virtual assistant goes into the court system. They have to manually pull out everything that was filed, right? And look at the cases and then who owns it. And then we skip trace it. And then after we skip trace it, then we call them. But yeah, that's it. And then our script is very similar to just like a regular traditional script, but we're like, hey, we're purchasing properties even if the tenants are not paying. So we just add that into the equation because obviously we know, like you don't talk to someone like, hey, I know you filed eviction. Like that's kind of rude and aggressive. So I usually say like, hey, like we're helping landlords who unfortunately, during these times their tenants haven't been paying rent. We have some, we just have some options available.
What's the follow-up process, Kristina? How many touches do you have typically on a landlord to get to a contract?
So it really varies, but I think we're at 8 points of contacts between text messages.
It's like that's a golden number, regardless of what
Mhm.
you're looking at.
Yeah.
If you're working with agents,
Yep.
you typically have to follow up with an agent 8 times. You work with a landlord, you got to follow up 8 times. You work with a homeowner, you got to follow up 8 times. You guys catching on to the pattern here?
Yeah. And that's the average. So sometimes it's going to be 20 times. Like I did a deal last month and my spread was like 27 grand. And I actually worked this lead myself because it was like a little old man. And like, I had to like, just like coddle him and like take care of him. So I literally pulled up to his house. Like, I'm like, yo, like quit playing with me.
What were you driving?
What's your address? My Nissan Altima.
Oh, just checking. Just checking.
Or the HHR. No, but I wasn't the Ultima. And so literally I pulled up. I'm like, where are you at? Like, he's like, oh, I'm at home. I'm like, what's the address? Like, I'm like, I'm not playing with you. I need you to sign this contract. Like, I followed up with you. You said this, you said that. So it's just at the end of the day, it's just doing what everybody else isn't willing to do. I mean, it's what Pace and what all of you are like preaching. It's everybody's okay with the low hanging fruit, right? Everybody's going to get those deals are always going to come, but it's the additional stuff, the stuff that actually makes the difference. And it's the people that really need you. When you don't show up, that little old man probably would have stayed sitting on that property for longer. All those things, And it's like, if I don't show up, then maybe someone else less qualified will show up and they're not going to help the seller the way I can. But the reality is maybe no one shows up.
Right.
Kristina, what's the benefit of having a real estate license and wholesaling?
I don't know, because I don't have a license. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have a license. But I mean, I would assume that if the laws change, you have a license already.
Will you guys tell me if you disagree with this assessment?
I
Somebody got mad at me the other day. They sent me a DM after I did that 26-hour live. What I told people is I said, if you are a realtor and you are wearing a realtor's hat, you are not a real estate investor. Nor are you technically in real estate. You are a service provider to people who are in real estate, much like a notary, much like a UPS store, much like a bank. You are providing a service. So when you have your real estate license, I tell people a real estate license is not a great way to make money. A real estate license is a great way to save money. So if you are fixing and flipping and you're listing your own properties or you're going out and finding deals yourself, you can save that commission or even have a seller pay you that commission.
Yep.
The average real estate agent in the United States makes less than $60,000. So having a real estate license is not a license to make money, but it is a license, I feel like, to save money if you are fixing and flipping and you are doing your own transactions. Do you guys think I'm off on that?
No, I think you're right, Pace. But at the same time, I feel that the way that things are moving right now in the U.S. with respect to licensing and laws changing, couple that with the fact that equitable interest is just such an enigma for a lot of people. They don't know what it really means. They don't know what they're marketing. Are they marketing contracts? Are they marketing the house? In certain states, you can't market a property address at all. You can only market a contract. It's so in different parts of the United States, there's ambiguity. I think by having a real estate license, you're doing the following. You're giving yourself instant credibility, and you can tap into real estate agent networks across the country. You can get access to you can actually take listings. So if you're talking to sellers and they want retail and you can actually best serve them with a retail listing, you can list it. You can market properties without having to have an option or a JV contract or equitable interest, because now you're actually a real estate salesperson. You are a fiduciary, meaning that you know the laws, you know the things, you know the ethics, you know all of the things that you should and shouldn't be doing, so that it enhances the way that people are approaching sellers. So my opinion, and you guys know I've been having this opinion since I got started. We had our entire office licensed. Everybody at Keegley is licensed except for me. And why? It's for all those things I just said. It absolutely legitimizes you. It legitimizes your business, and it gives you instant credibility when you're talking to homeowners.
I agree with 100% of that. 100%. If you look on the screen, Crystal Frangos down in Tucson says, literally the only reason I'm going, she's currently, like, she texted me today. She says she's in realtor school. She said, so she can stop referring it out. So for a lot of wholesalers, what we do is we'll run into a seller who genuinely should just list their property on the MLS. Like there's no reason they should be selling their house to us, right? And if they should be selling it to a realtor, then why should I not direct that contract or that listing agreement to somebody else, right? So I do really like that. Jamil, I do agree with everything you have to say. The only thing I want people to be very clear about is I see a lot of people, they'll DM me and they'll say, I'm getting into real estate. I'm getting my license. And I'm like, there's a lot easier ways to get into real estate than going and getting your license first. However, there are states that are starting to cramp down on that and kind of forcing you to have your realtor's license before you can even do wholesale. Do we know what states those are? I know Illinois is one. After one wholesale, you got to get a license. What else do we got?
I think Illinois is the only one right now.
Yeah, I think there's some.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma's got some legislation. Kansas got some legislation in the works, but nothing solid. And even in Illinois, you need a license to do one assignment. You can double close up the wazoo.
Yeah,
it's like I have an attorney in Illinois, and he says, I mean, it's kind of like speeding.
Yeah,
People don't, you're not supposed to do it, but people do it. Got
it. Again, guys, I think it's interesting. Atlanta just passed. I don't know if a law has been passed. I think that there's conversation about a potential law, but what do you know about that?
Listen, the National Association of Realtors is like the biggest lobbying group in the country. You can look it up, and they have a lot of money behind them, and they get money if people are licensed, and they really don't like it when people make money that aren't licensed.
Right, they got to get their fees.
So it's going to happen. I'm just telling you, it's going to happen. Just prepare. Or listen, there's so many other options. There's so many. You can close on these deals. You can get transactional funding. You can get a partner that sees how ambitious you are, that wants to close on all these deals. Buying and flipping properties, that you're not going to need a license to flip properties. They're just saying if you go in and you say that I'm the buyer and you're not the buyer and you turn it over to somebody else, they're going to have a problem with it, and it's going to eventually get sucked up by the NAR. It is. That's just what it is. And they're working with Zillow. There you go. Anyway, so listen, who knows how long it'll take? At this point, your job is to go out there and help the people that aren't helping themselves out there in the community. You're out there to find all those vacant properties that need some love. You're there to help out those tired landlords. You're there to help people that are going through the probate or inheritance process. You're there to help the people that don't know what to do right now. And if the best help that you can give them is to refer them to a real estate agent so that they can put it on the market, do it. And if you have a license, you can get paid to do that. All right. So, I mean, here's the thing. If people want to trade potential equity in their house for speed and convenience, that's always going to be around. We're always going to have opportunities. There's more ugly properties than there are wholesalers.
It was interesting. Jared Frankham just made a comment, and he said, guys, getting your real estate license is really, really easy. It only takes a couple of weeks. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually true.
Yep.
Why do people have such an aversion to it? And I kind of feel like it's like the Romeo and Juliet situation. It's like the Capulets and the Montagues. It's like you have two families fighting for the same thing. Like, guys, we are really on the same team. Both realtors and wholesalers and fix and flippers, we're all on the same team. And when you see the amazing relationship that Jamil has with realtors and how much money he makes in a symbiotic way, it is insane how much money they make. But when you guys look at agents as the adversary, that is what causes something in your heart that says, I don't want to go get my license.
100% Pace. It's a mindset thing. It's a 1000% mindset thing. It's just this idea that I'm going to do something without being watched. I'm going to do something without being regulated. And a part of us, I think it's all people. We want autonomy. We want not to have somebody breathing down our neck, checking everything we do. And the idea also of being a real estate agent means you're going to have a broker. They're going to check your paperwork. You're going to have to submit stuff. You're going to have to pay dues. It's just like being, you got to go through the hoops. You got to jump through the hoops. And people don't necessarily want to jump through hoops in their adult lives, right? And so there's resistance to that. But again, folks, you got to stop at red lights. You got to have a driver's license. There's just things in life that require infrastructure and for you to actually just get tested and get licensed. It's okay. But that's neither here nor there. Kristina, I want to ask you a question about your daily routine, because I don't feel like a person fires on all those cylinders the way you do, and just wakes up whenever the heck she wants to wake up and does whatever the heck she wants to do all day long. And then, shit just happens and piles up into 200 houses plus, right? So talk about that. What are you doing every single day? Can you walk us through a day in the life? Like, what time do you get out of the bottle?
So I'm usually waking up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's like very natural now. I just come out of the bottle really easily at this point. I've just been doing it for a while. No, so I'm not a morning person at all. Like, well, I wasn't before. I was the kind of person where I was like, the reason why I'm an entrepreneur is so that people don't tell me what to do. Exactly what we just talked about with realtors. Like, I didn't want people to tell me what to do. I didn't want anybody, like, anytime anyone said something to me, I'm like, yo, like, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, I'm like, that's the reason why I chose this life. And so I was very resistant to routine for a very, very long time. But when you get to a point where you're running multiple businesses and people need you, at the end of the day, like, that's the only way to make it work. Like, you have to have structure in your day. So I start in the morning. I usually, like, lately I've actually have been in my phone because then I go work out after. But I usually just like check in really quickly with my team, just because some of my girls do start really early. I send the boo a text message, make sure everything's good there. That's the first part. And then after that, just kind of like just run through my day. So usually I already have a preset of meetings and Zoom calls and just everything that I have to do to kind of like get the ball rolling. Meetings as far as like collection meetings, eviction meetings, just anything that needs my final approval. But I mean, throughout the day, my employees are handling most of the things at this point, but all the high level issues do come to me if there's something that needs to be solved or problem solved.
How much do you charge your boo rent?
You don't live in my house.
I mean, in one of your other 200 houses.
He doesn't live here.
Okay. I was just checking. I was like, she's got it going on. Uh-huh. You can't tell Kristina nothing, and she's going to charge you rent. Mm-hmm. It's dope.
I'm not that mean. No, but I charge everybody rent. If you're taking up space, you're taking up, that's the way it goes. Everybody pays rent around here. The dog even pays rent. But I mean, honestly, I think that one of the biggest things is just like the work that I've done on my mindset that has got me to where I am. Like, I did a lot of work. I went through a divorce as I was building my business, and it really put a lot of things into perspective for me. Obviously, like, I'm an alpha female, so there's that. I'm not very passive. So I had to learn and unlearn and unbecome and become a lot of things through that process. And a lot of it was, getting a relationship coach on like what exactly I wanted or needed in my business relationships, in my personal relationships, so that I could take it to the next level.
Rob Robbins says, I'd love to hear more about Kristina's healing journey and how important that was for her to get to where she is now. And you just brought up your mindset. I love that you have a relationship coach. That's pretty amazing. Can we talk about that for a couple of minutes? What was that journey like? And tell us about this relationship coach.
So basically I have a relationship coach, and her process is more so like really getting into like the nitty gritty. So, I mean, I can talk openly about my healing journey. So, I don't really have necessarily like a ton of trauma or anything that happened to me. But I'm first generation American, and I grew up in a household where my dad, really, really pushed hard work, consistency, showing up, burnout, to be honest. Just like working so hard so that you can have the things that a lot of times like you're just working to live a life. And that's very first generation mindset that comes on, and then having to like take care of everything whenever you do make it. And so all this stuff was like super subconscious. It was so subconscious. And I really had to dig it up, because in my processing, I learned that I was dating men who weren't as ambitious as me. Didn't make as much money as me, didn't take initiative. And it doesn't really have anything to do with money, but obviously that's a part of this entrepreneurship thing, in a sense that I could control them. So we're getting really, really deep here, but that's literally what was happening. And I would have never figured that out if I hadn't done the work and like really understood how I operated in relationships and why I was choosing the way that the things that I was choosing, and the situations that I was putting myself in. But the relationship coach, honestly, I just got really, really focused on what I, as myself, needed in a relationship, but how I wanted to show up. One of the things that I really, really found out in this process was that I needed to feel safe. And I know that sounds really, really crazy, but even you guys should feel safe. And I know all of you feel very safe with your wives, because I know how it comes off in the world. Like you guys can walk around very freely. Like you guys do a lot of things because of your relationships with your wives. Like you, all three of you have very healthy relationships with your wives, and not
that is one of the strongest statements you could have ever made.
Yep.
I tell my wife this all the time, and we've known this. And Kristina, I want you to keep talking about it because I'm seeing a lot of really positive comments in here. My wife is my foundation, and everything that I am able to do outside of the home is because my foundation at home is so absolutely strong. In fact, it's one of the reasons why Brent Daniels and Jamil Damji have become my two, best friends, is because we have similar relationships with our wives. And when Jamil and I travel around the country like we do, we run into guys that are just not happy with their lives at home. Oh my gosh, we cannot spend 13 seconds with these human beings.
I mean, I talk about it to Kristina all the time. We jam about it constantly. I'm like, this is crazy, because
I'm like, we're not escaping anything. I don't
Right.
understand why you guys come to these events. You guys do these things to escape life.
no,
Like, that's
I'm
not
trying to get back to my life as quick as possible.
bruh, who are you talking about? Exactly.
That is such a strong thing, is like, if people's relationships are not right, it's really hard to be successful out in the business world, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. No, honestly, I had gained so much weight. I was burnt the heck out. I literally, nothing was flowing properly. Nothing was really in alignment. Like I was making money, but it was 100% based off of stamina and hustling through. Literally, it was 100% based off of hustle. And now I operate from such a different place. The man that I choose is a different kind of person. He's healed. He's done the work. And I feel like everything that I've been through in this, in this space is because of the work that I've done. Like the analysis of myself. A lot of times, like I don't blame anyone for anything that happened prior. At the end of the day, I chose those things. There were things that I needed to heal through. They were just a part of the story.
What, like, is a relationship coach a one-time conversation and you're done, or is it something you work through over time?
So, I mean, I'm sure you could do like a single session. So I personally, like everything when it comes to my healing journey, I go all the way in. So I was doing like 2 to 3 sessions a week because I wanted to blast through the work. I didn't want to rush through it. I wanted to heal. That's all I was focused on, was healing the unhealed parts of myself, so I could be a better business owner, so I could be a better partner to whoever that was. And those are the things that I kind of focus on. But yeah, I mean, it's honestly, I feel like a lot of women, and I'll just speak specifically to women. I don't have any children, but I have seen women, especially after they have children, they get very irritated. They're very anxious. Like people are really struggling to like find answers and find fulfillment in things outside of like the worth that the world has told them as a wife and a mom. And so a lot of times, like, you don't even know why you're angry and just everything's irritating to you. So I think that really focusing, whether it's a spiritual coach, a life coach, whatever you want to call it, a relationship expert, it's how you operate with other people, relationships. And that's why I love all three of you guys so much. Like relationships are the foundation of everything that we do. Like nothing matters without relationships. Like the people I do deals with, the things that I do are 100% based off of my relationship with people, how I operate in those relationships.
That's an interesting statement. If you don't mind me jumping on that for just a second.
Yeah,
my wife, after she had our daughter, she said that the most challenging part of having a child was losing herself, right? Women have to lose themselves to fully take care of that child. And it is something that a man, in my opinion, will never understand, right? And it is so challenging. I love that you went and you got a coach talking about the relationships you're trying to find and trying to basically find yourself in that spiritual journey that you went on. Are you complete with that spiritual journey? Are you done, or are you still on that?
I think that spiritual journeys are constant. I actually just reached out to the sound bowl lady. I was like,
Oh, my friend Sammy Pants.
yeah. I'm
Amazing.
like, hey, let's try this. I actually just bought a sound bowl this week, so I think that there's no end to it.
Guys, let me just plug her because Sam is incredible. Kristina, absolutely worthwhile. I do sessions with Sam. Pace and I have done a session with Sam. I'm going to gift Brent a session with Sam. In fact, my entire mastermind all had a session with Sam. Her Instagram got hacked. And so a lot of folks that were trying to reach out to her haven't been able to. She's got a new Instagram. Are you guys okay if I share it? And why don't all of you guys just go and follow her? This is the kind of person you guys need to be hanging out with or learning from. Her new Instagram is, sorry.
I have it. I was literally just messaging her. So
it's Sam_E_pants 2.0.
Pants.
Sammy Pants 2.0. Guys, we're going to put that in the chat. Everybody just go and subscribe to her Instagram. She's dope.
What is sound healing?
Well, you know,
what are we doing here?
If you're looking at the universe as a whole, we know that everything is vibration.
Okay.
That's a fact. That's a scientific fact.
What does that mean?
That means that the atoms in your body that make up your body are vibrating, either quickly or slowly. And you are vibrating slowly because you have the appearance of solidity.
Right.
But you're not really solid.
Nope.
That's a scientific fact.
Yeah.
So sound healing is using sound vibration to hit different energy centers in our bodies to unleash or unstick stuck energy.
Love it.
And actually, when energy gets stuck in your body, that manifests as pain, or it can manifest as anxiety, or it can manifest as depression. And so giving yourself an opportunity to cleanse that is very healing, very refreshing.
Is it also like meditation?
100%. You go into a deep state of meditation. In fact, when I do a session with Sam, 45 minutes feels like 4 seconds.
In that, is it just release, or is it also put in good stuff?
All the good stuff. Brother, I can finish a session and I'll be in tears. I'll be in tears and I won't even know why, but I'm feeling blissful. I feel beautiful. I feel great. And I walk out glowing. You know, and this is just sound. Not a word is spoken the entire meditation.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just any kind of like form healing. Sometimes it is like talking, but just like spiritual, like anything that's outside of your body and doesn't necessarily make sense and we can't put words to it. That's where I want to live. Blissful state. That's the chase. Like we're here, but it's all about being in alignment and being in bliss.
Love that.
Well, I think it gives us opportunity to have better, deeper relationships. I think it gives us the opportunity to be open to hearing what the other person in a relationship is actually saying and feeling, or even having an intuition if they're not saying or act. You know what I mean? Maybe there's something off a little bit there, and there's ability to communicate there because you are like all the noise in your head is kind of shut down, and you can have better relationships. Listen, we're all going to die. We're all going to be skeletons. What's left? Is it the money? Well, sure. But who's it going to? It's the relationships. It's the relationships. I'm telling you. It's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I think another thing that it's also made me like a 100% better salesperson because I can like stop and listen. I feel like as salespeople, a lot of time, like we're trying to project and well, it's not we're trying to project. We project our own insecurities, our own BS. At the end of the day, that's what you're doing is you're bringing your stuff into someone else's space. And another thing too is obviously we're dealing with a lot of sellers who are going through a lot of different things. So you need to know how to emotionally regulate too. Like you can't take on people's problems. Obviously you can help them through their problems, but you shouldn't be taking them home with you. And that can be a very toxic environment at the end of the day. So but yeah, I mean, I think like today I went on a seller appointment and it actually worked out to be like the best thing ever. And I didn't get to walk the house, because the sister's actually a crackhead and she's trying to sell the house from the brother. And the brother didn't know that we were coming today, but it came out to be such an amazing like conversation. They just had their daughter was killed by her ex-husband, which is like super morbid. It's terrible because people don't go on healing journeys and they have trauma and they don't address the things that are traumatic for them. And so anyway, so now, you know, they're raising these grandkids. And have you ever heard of wholesaling pallets? They wholesale pallets.
Yeah. Like wood pallets?
Yeah, wooden pallets that have like stuff on them though, like TVs and all kinds of stuff. So you like buy a pallet for like $1,000 and then you dissect it, put it on Facebook Marketplace and like sell it for $3,000 or whatever. So this is what they do. And it was just it was such a refreshing conversation to really understand, you know, that everybody's going through stories, everything's happening. And these people are like, they need to move. Obviously, they're going to sell the house. We built such great rapport with them. But when they do sell, they have to move to Houston first. And they have $25,000 to put down as an option so this is my shameless plug. If you have any sub-2s, any deals in Houston for a family, at least 4 bedrooms, I would love to help them relocate out of St. Louis just because they have been through a very traumatic experience. They have good money to put down, but it's just crazy. Like I reached out to Brian Arigbu because I know he does deals down there. And I was like, yo, do you have anything for this family? Like they're ready to move on with their lives and like they're hustlers, you know? So it was just crazy. Like at the end of the day, when you're able to like be receptive and like understand and you've gone through a healing journey, you can help people and you don't take things so personally.
Amazing.
Kristina.
Yes.
I would love to have you talk to my Houston students. We have a massive Houston community of sub-2 and Astro students, and we can find you a sub-2 deal in a day, maybe not even a day.
Perfect.
So there are so many opportunities there. I'd love to chat with you. A couple of things I loved is on Sunday, I did a 26-hour live.
Because you're a robot.
During that 26-hour live, about halfway through, I called sellers for 6 hours straight, just 15-minute conversations every, 15 minutes. And the first conversation, I had to take out I have a little pen, and I write notes to myself on my little whiteboard desk. And the first thing that I wrote to myself on that first call was slow down. Slow down. Right. And I've been doing this a long time. Kristina, you've been doing this a long time. Brent, you've been doing this a long time. Jamil, you've been doing this a long time. Going back to like slowing down and the healing and sound bowl and frequency and all of that kind of stuff and everything, Kristina, you just talked about with not actually bringing things into the seller's universe, right? Not like bringing your projections into their universe. A lot of times when we're trying to talk too fast or tell the seller something, man, we're bringing things into that room that don't exist, right? So slow down, listen 10 times more than you speak. And Kristina, it's such a great reminder. A lot of people are like, I need to be a closer. The first step of being a great closer is being an amazing listener. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. It's honestly, I feel like you use words obviously to communicate, but I think that, to be honest, I feel like being a healer is more important even in sales. Like if someone feels comfortable with you and they understand that you have their best interest at heart, selling is, I went on an appointment. So just like you, Pace, I go on appointments. I love going on appointments. They're my favorite thing. I love sellers. I love helping people. So I go on appointments still. And I went on an appointment on Saturday and I'm like, yo, I walked in. And I tell him, I'm like, yo, this is not bad at all. Like everything you told me is right. Like we good. I'm like, what did I tell you? If this, it's like a little shift. Cause I was like, I can probably give you 78, but I really have to make sure I can save the carpet and I can save certain things. And then I can, if not, I'm going to probably be like at 75. And he was like, okay, well just come. And I even said it out loud to him. I'm like, it's funny because like when you're an investor, sometimes you think I have to point out all the bad stuff in this house. Like I have to bring attention to things. And really, if you are more in alliance with the seller, that's really where the magic happens. Like we're sitting on the same side of the table. We're not across from each other. So that's one of my biggest like negotiating tactics is I never am across from someone. I always try to get next to them. So that it's not like I'm talking at them, I'm talking with them.
Yep.
I think someone said something about like, I would love to hear Kristina call someone. I mean,
Kristina, you and I should do a calling seller live where we just go back and forth and we hang out and just have a
honestly, I love calling sellers.
Me too. I love it. So here's something that happened the other night, Tuesday night. I had one of my students come into my Tuesday Q&A. And I usually do like 6 or 7 Zooms a week with my students, myself, and then my team does another 15 or so. But on Tuesdays, I'll call sellers for them. And one of my students came in and he is sitting there asking me questions. And I'm like, this isn't adding up. Like, this is not adding up. You know what? I don't think you've asked the question. I don't think you've asked the seller enough questions. Let me just call them. And the student's like, well, dude, it's like 9:30, on the East Coast. I'm like, so what? Let's call them. Let's have a conversation. So we get on the phone, and through a series of 3 or 4 questions and me just listening, or at least what I felt like I was listening to, I gathered way more information than my student was able to gather, right? Because I was asking questions, listening, asking questions, listening. And I always tell people the sign of an amazing call for me is at the end of the call, the seller is like, what was your name again? Because I made it so not about me. It was all about them, right? And all about their situation. So that's how I felt the call was going. Yeah. And I get off the call. I then go to my student on the Zoom and I say, man, that was an amazing call. Thank you so much for bringing that value. Do you see how these 10 questions really opened up her story? Here's what I think the solution is. And I started lining out what the solution is. And then the seller calls me back 5 minutes later. And she says, I don't think you asked this, this, and this. And I'm like, whoa, the seller like pointed out all my imperfections on the seller call. And it was another 30 minutes of me gathering more information. And without that last 30 minutes, everything else would have been a waste. And I went back and watched that call again today. And I found myself in the first version or the first call, I started telling the seller what I think the solution was, rather than continually asking questions and leading them to where ultimately we could both win. And I was like, oh my gosh, what a great reminder. We have to like fight our natural tendency to make this about us all the freaking time. Yep. And a great closer is somebody who can listen more and ask better questions. And Kristina, I would love to freaking do a collaboration with you where we have people just set up calls and we almost have a competition of who can listen better. You know what I'm saying? Like, forget about closing more because inevitably you're going to close, but I want to see who's the best freaking listener with the best freaking questions.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what it comes down to a lot. I feel like a lot of times that's what I was seeing, like, as far as like we bring things onto the seller. And so we're thinking for them. That's one of the biggest problems that happen is that we assume for them, we think for them, and then they're not able to think for themselves. Right. So we're putting into the situation, into the aura that we want this done. When in reality, like if they just tell us or we lead them, into the things that are best for them or guide them and like, hey, these are the opportunities for you. But I mean, what do you think is best for you? But I think a lot of it is like presenting that and listening to the actual pain points. A lot of times I think so many people teach like, okay, listen for motivation. Okay, first of all, you need to find motivation. Like most people are just not going to like blurt out problems.
Brent, what does that mean? Find motivation.
Listen, if you got to ask them, why do you want to sell this? You haven't done your job right.
You haven't connected.
You're just trying. You have assignment fee breath. You know what I mean? Like you're just coming at it like, hey, let me get all the goodies out of you. First, you got to, listen. It just depends. Typically, you
didn't foreplay at all.
What's that?
I said you didn't foreplay at all.
No, yeah. I mean, like for real. Like you,
Christina, what's foreplay?
That's the reason why we
warm her up. You know what you do to warm up before you make babies.
I'm Mormon. We don't know anything about that.
He's like, yo, we got 9 minutes.
You had a baby appointment.
Yeah, he's not pre-qualified. That's for sure. No, listen, you go in and you're trying to open up the conversation. These sellers, they don't know who you are, what's going on. So with your tone of voice, with your pacing, the questions that you're asking, you're slowly bringing down their force field so that they can connect with you, right? You're going there and you're saying, listen, through my voice, through the way that I'm listening, through the way that I really care about this conversation, I would love to connect with you. If I can help you, I am going to help you. If I can't, I'm going to point you into the best position that I can. But that's where you start out all of it. You start as a servant. You start serving the community that realtors aren't serving, mortgage companies aren't serving, people with money aren't serving. Like these are people that are the 6 to 10% that are in distress for whatever reason, whether it be financial or emotional. They're in some sort of distress, and it's our job to melt their force field by the way that we communicate with them. And it starts with having that truly, I want to connect with you heart. That's it. Just go with that. That's why, I mean, you see these guys melt down all of these force field, all these walls that all these sellers put up, because they actually care. Because listen, if Kristina lost a deal or Pace lost a deal, it doesn't matter. If they connected, that's the point. And they're going to get 100 other deals because they're always generating opportunities for themselves. So one deal, you don't have to squeeze out that one deal and like really force it as hard as you can. You can just lay back and see if you can serve them. If you can't, you can't. Move on. That's why we're constantly generating new opportunities.
A couple of people asked this exact question. What are the top questions to ask sellers? Oh my gosh, there's so many really, really great ones. I would say that it depends on what stage of the journey you're in, right? You could be in the 4 pillars, right? And you're still trying to get capture the 4 pillars. Brent, I know you're the 4 pillar guy. I referred back to your YouTube video. Probably my team watches the 4 pillars video more than anybody else does on your YouTube channel. So thank you for that. Are there a certain couple of questions that you ask during the 4 pillars that help extract more information, get the seller talking, get them warmed up? Use that foreplay. What's that word you guys use? Foreplay?
Yeah, the foreplay. Yeah, we'll just kind of go round robin. I really like, this is something that Ryan Thornton, my acquisition manager, has been doing a ton. And just like Kristina, he walks into the house. He's not getting the tour. He's not tearing it all up. He sits down next to him at the couch and he says, "What's your goal with this property and how can I help?" That's it. What's your goal? I think it's brilliant. I think it's fantastic.
I mean, they're going to tell you, I'm trying to sell it, or I'm trying to keep it, or if I don't sell it, I'm okay. Like, they're going to tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What's your goal is a good question. Another iteration of that I use is, what are you trying to accomplish? And 50% of this time, the seller knows what the heck I'm asking. And the other 50% of the time, it catches them off guard a little bit, causes them to pause and go, what do you mean by that? And I go, well, yeah, I mean, imagine you sell your house. Where are you going to live? What's going on there? Like, let's paint that picture. Tell me, what does that look like? Because I may or may not be able to even help you. What are you trying to accomplish? And then I reiterate the question again and I shut up.
Right.
I think we got to turn on a light switch and turn off a light switch in our heads. Kristina hit it right on the head. She said we're projecting. That's just it. Guys, if you boil it all down to it, we're projecting. We think the seller thinks what we think. No. They think what they think. You think what they think. You need to get to a point where you're listening to what they think. And you got to ask enough questions to get into their mind, not throw your mind up into a conversation and expect that things are going to happen that way.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing when it comes to these conversations is like opening it up. So I feel like that part of, so one of the things, I went on an appointment on Saturday. I did like 4 appointments on Saturday, and I went, and it was, so they were having a garage sale, and like my acquisitions manager in the notes, she was like, make sure you buy something. And like, just like, she just knew all these things because she had talked to the seller. And so I get there, and like his grandkids are there, like daughters, all this stuff. So like when I get there, I'm like asking questions like, okay, like who's who here? I just want to know who, can someone walk me around the house? Like I go in, I'm like, he's like, well, you could just walk around. And I was like, well, can someone walk me around? Like that would just be better. So I know what I'm looking at. It's engaging people into the process. Right. And so I come outside and I'm like, hey, are you his daughter? You know, I don't want to make decisions. Obviously, he's an older man. Like, I don't, you know, I want to make sure that someone's listening in. Like, I want you guys to know that I want the best for him. And I want, you know, I want you guys to feel confident in this process. And so we go through the whole thing, and he starts bringing up all these people. So he had already talked to like an agent and all this stuff. And like an agent had told him that they could list for 160,000, but they had to like clean out the house and like do all this stuff. And I'm like, bro, like my offer is like 115. Like, like we're a little far off here. So, you know, I want to just understand kind of, I asked them, I was like, where is he going? Like, you know, if you guys sell the house, where is he going? Like, if these things happen, you know, what's next? Okay, what about the uncle that's living in the basement? Like, what happens with him? Okay, so you guys don't need any help with that. And it's all of that, you know, it's all that communication. It's all that conversation. That's how you build rapport, because they're going to tell you things that you didn't ask. You didn't ask a leading question for it, but it's going to spiral, and it's going to give, you know, it's going to give you that information that you actually need in order to help them make that decision.
You know, it's an interesting thing. Somebody asked me the other day, what is wholesaling? And I said, it's the practice of being a better adult than other people. And what do I mean by that? I meant there's a lot of people, it's kind of crazy, but think about it. A lot of these people get into situations, right? People living in the basement, this meth person selling their husband's house out from underneath them. These people are making bad decisions, or they don't know how to be an adult quite yet, right? They're going through their own trauma. They're going through situations. And so your goal as a wholesaler or as a real estate investor is I need to be the bigger adult here. I need to have all the pieces of the puzzle. I need to assemble this. And my job is just to be the better adult. And you need to understand what's going on with everybody inside of that house. You need to understand their story, and you need to care so much that you can envision where these people are going to be sleeping after the transaction is done. If you don't think about that stuff, you're going to lose this game. If you're not trying to help people truly to that level, you will lose this game.
Yeah, if you try to go in and just get the contract signed, get the paperwork, the agreement going, and open up escrow and then forget about it, that thing's going to fall apart. It's going to fall apart. It's going to always fall apart. They might just be, you know, nice, sweet people that want to just do something and get, you know, the ball rolling. But unless you're solving all of those other problems, all those little challenges and hurdles in there, you've got it all lined up and you're helping out, it's just not going to work. It's going to fall out. And that's where people
Kristina, I've got a question for you. Do you ever feel like you go on appointments and you, like, in the first 5 minutes, you're like, there's literally nothing I'm going to be able to do to help this person? Not because their situation's so bad, but because they just literally don't have any pain and they're just kicking tires. You ever run into that? And like, you know, from experience that there's nothing you can bring to the table of value to that seller.
So usually, I mean, I feel like, I'm just going to be honest. Like, I feel like I can always bring value to someone, whether it's like getting a tenant in place for them or whatever, you know, like connecting them with an eviction attorney, like just any, even if it's like something down the line, I feel like I always bring value to spaces, but sometimes people do have like their guard up and they're just not motivated. Or even if they have their guard down, they're just like, bro, if you don't give me 160,000, like I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to that. Like, I'm just not going to that extent. Like, I'm going to tell them like, hey, this is what I can do, but I'm there to build rapport. I'm not there to close the deal.
Right.
Like,
That's a great line. I'm there to build rapport, not to close the deal.
Yeah. I mean, if they're not motivated right now, I'm just trying to make an impression at this point.
And, you know, the fact that she always knows that she has something of value to offer, regardless of whether or not a deal gets done. You guys watch what Pace was doing in the last few days. He was going around knocking on doors with a landscaping team. Okay. And I wasn't with him, but I saw that he was doing this.
Yeah.
This guy went around town knocking on doors with a landscaping team, and he found out from the homeowner if they were just in distress or they just needed some help with their damn landscaping. And if they did, he had the team go out there and take care of the lawn.
How'd you approach that conversation, Pace?
I did it on IG Live. I said, your house looks like shit. Just kidding. I didn't say that. I did on IG Live. I basically just had this thought because I get so many people are like, how do I get into real estate? How do I get into real estate? I'm like, you know what? I can always tell you how to get into real estate, or I can just show you. So I go on IG Live and I put my phone in my shirt pocket and I go around the neighborhood and I start knocking on doors that look like they had overgrown weeds. And I had my landscape crew down the road, and I said, look, instead of me thinking about, I'm going to close a deal today, I'm going to think about who can I serve? And I want to have the attitude of servitude. If I have the attitude of servitude and I understand that this business is, I've never bought a house, and Kristina, Jamil, Brent, you guys will attest to this. I have never bought a house at a deep discount without helping somebody. Never once have I ever done that.
Every time.
Yep. And so if you have the attitude of servitude and you're there to serve people, you will find people that you can serve. And if you find people that you can serve, you will find discounted properties. So forget about the properties, forget about any of that stuff, forget about yourself. And so what I told people, I go, watch me do this. I'm going to find somebody to serve right now. And I just went out and I found a family that he had lost his job during the pandemic, and his lawnmower broke, and it was a horrible situation. It's a long story I don't need to go into. And so I just had my crew come 5 houses down. They were working on one of my sub 2 rentals, and I had them come down, and we spent 4 hours cleaning up their yard. And then we did the across the street neighbor's yard. Then today I hired a full-time person that all I want them to do is go find more of those people to serve, because I will find deals in the process, right?
Yeah.
That's the process of driving for deals. I'm looking for people that have signs of distress, and that's also a sign I need help. And so I told that person when they go, what's my job? I go, your job is to find people that we can help. I didn't talk to them about driving for deals. I didn't talk to them about any of that stuff. I just said, we need to find people to help, and you need to set appointments for our team to go talk to these people to help them. That was the entire training. That was it.
And honestly,
Incredible.
I feel like we get so caught up in all the logistics and all the stuff. Literally, we get so caught up in everything. My dog's trying to get my attention. Literally, we get so caught up in all that stuff. And if you can literally be like, hey, I'm going to serve, that's all that matters.
Yeah, and it's tough to serve if you don't like talking to people.
That, or if you haven't dealt with the little crevices and cobwebs and shadows in your own psyche.
Right.
In all honesty,
Yeah.
if you're still a greedy motherfucker and you can't get yourself out of your head to go help people, legit, right? If you can't put yourself out there to go do something for somebody without expecting something in return, then that's something that you have to illuminate in yourself. You have to see that. You gotta see it, observe it, understand what it is, and then heal it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And really, I would really encourage anybody that's on here to just like do that work, like understand why you're triggered. Like when you're in a situation, when you're getting like anxious or you don't like something, like you go into a space and it like just doesn't feel good, listen to that. Like understand that those aren't the spaces or the people that you need to be around. They're not good for you. If they make you feel like that, they're not good for you. That's your intuition talking to you. And so if you're in a situation, at the end of the day, that's how the seller could feel sometimes. Right? That you need to be calming for the seller. Like the seller needs to trust you.
Does everybody else agree with Dan Quijano out of Albuquerque, New Mexico? He says Ghetto Jamil is my favorite.
It's the best. It's the best.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh, that's so Jamil, you're the best. You're the freaking best. You know, last thing I'll say about that thing that I did on Saturday or Sunday, I had a lot of people. I went back through like the comments on that IG live I did. And it was funny, like 99% of people got like what we're talking about right now. And there's a handful of people that are like, I don't get it. How are you making money? I don't get it. How are you making money? Right. And it's tough, like coming from a position, like let's remind ourselves before we ever did a deal. It's hard to have that mindset when you haven't done a deal yet, right? It's hard to break away from that. And it's easy for us to say this now, like years later, and we've done thousands and thousands of deals and made millions of dollars. And Kristina has 270 doors that she's renting out. Like it's easy for us to say like, guys, it's not about the money. But I promise you, if I could go back and tell myself one thing to amplify and focus on, it would be exactly what we've been talking about the last 10 minutes. Have an attitude of servitude.
You know, and Pace isn't going to say this, but I'm going to say it on his behalf. When Pace first started getting in to wholesaling and he was networking with folks and he reached out, you know, our relationship was very one-sided for some time. it would be Pace calling me being like, hey, meet this person. Hey, meet this person. Hey, meet this person. Hey, meet this person. He continuously came to me with people that I should know, that I should be doing business with, that I wasn't already working with, without even once thinking about, hey, what do I get in return? Where's my cut?
Oh, he's still like that.
But I mean, it's just, and this is, and the reason I bring it up, Pace, is because you're talking about, you're in your situation right now, but you were in that situation back then when you had just been busted for $1 million. When
I was about to say that. Like, honestly, I've been like this the entire time, and I think that's why 7 years has been so short for me. Like, I think that's the difference between me and other people that started 7 years ago, was that everything, like I just said, I'm bringing value at all times. I figured out how I could add value. Like, I know at the end of the day I don't know what it is, but it's something, and I'll go find it. And that happened as a result of me networking. It happened as a result of me literally getting into like a chamber of commerce. It was a result of so many things, because at the end of the day, I just needed to show up for people, period.
Yep.
I was broke. I didn't have the money. I was just starting, all that stuff. I was door knocking. I had just been laid off of my job. So who more than someone who's $1 million, someone just got you for that, and this person who's on unemployment, basically, right? Like, talk about back against the wall.
Kristina, do you feel like you thrive on emotional income to some degree?
Oh, facts.
Like, you wake up in the morning, you're like, you would take like a thank you over a check any day.
Especially if it's like an impactful thank you. Like a thank you that gives someone else's checks. Like, if I can change someone's entire life, it could be from like me just sharing my story and someone hearing like, yo, I need to go to therapy really quick, so I can get my life together, or someone being like, yo, I know it's possible for me. That's enough for me on that space. Now, I obviously run a successful wholesaling company, a successful rental portfolio, a successful all these things. But even at times when that wasn't the case, a thank you and impact has always driven. Like, I have LLCs, literally Grip. One of my companies is called Grit. Another one's called Impact. Like, those are the things that drive me.
Freaking love that. My gosh. A lot of people are loving this episode today. Actually, one of my students, Rob Robbins.
He's so sweet.
Oh, he's so amazing. You see him in here. He's a sweetheart. He said that this was one of the best episodes ever, and he's watched basically all. What are we on, episode 86 now?
Thank you.
He said it was his favorite episode so far out of all 86 of our episodes. That's insane. Kristina, that's saying a lot.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
And then going back to that gentleman, I can't remember his name, but he sold you the duplex for $25,000.
Bosco. Oh, actually, this is a really, really funny story. So that seller that I went to go see, the older man. So the older man's, his wife passed away like 2 months ago, right? So Bosco was actually talking to the wife before she passed away. Before she passed away, the wife told the husband, she said, when you sell this house, call Bosco.
Wow. Okay.
When I got to the appointment, they name dropped Bosco, right? So I literally got on the phone with Bosco. I was like, hey, what did you offer them? What do we need to do to make this, like, how did you crunch your numbers? Because I'm way lower than that. And he's like, well, I was going to take it down myself. I was going to do this. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, here's the thing. It's really funny story, because when I left the seller my personal cell phone number, I wrote my name and my number, but then I wrote Bosco's name and Bosco's number.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is such a Pace and Jamil move.
So good. That's so good.
I told the family, I was like, I don't care who you call. Just call one of us. Like, we're going to help you, but just call one of us.
I love that. That is absolutely the way to do it, because you guys are in the same city, right? You're obviously going to run into Bosco multiple times. And that's the thing, like, I don't understand about how people are short-sighted in building relationships in their own town. You, like, talking about impact, think about all the people that you have bought deals from, that you, like, because of the assignment fee they got from a deal that you bought from them, they were able to pay their rent that month, or they were able to quit their job, or they were able to, like, buy their wife a new car, or whatever it is. Like, you are absolutely impacting your local geographical area and sending like domino effects all over the country. It's insane what you're doing.
Then on top of that, she opens her office up and she just says, come on in and watch how we work. I mean, you know, that in itself, especially there's no end there for her. There's no end game, right? She's not a mentor. She's not coaching. She's not doing anything, guys. She's there literally saying, come see how we run it, and then go off and do what you're going to do and ask me questions while you're here watching. I mean, that's incredible.
You're going to see Kristina like this all day. Just talking all day long. I
don't think she does that. I don't think Kristina is one of these on speakerphone. I think she's got a headset. She's got
the headset. What are you?
Oh my gosh.
Avatar. These things are huge, but they're noise canceling. No one can get through. I'm locked in. I do want to bring up something. So John Lewis is on here. And I know I paid him his first assignment fee. He brought me an amazing rental property. But just to see where he is now, they're flipping, they're putting out content for people to invest in St. Louis. It's just a testimony of like what showing up period looks like, right? It's a testimony of like the trickle effect of when you show up period, like it allows other people to live in their purpose and their, you know, their mission and their work that they get to do.
Love Kristina, definitely puts on for the city, paid me my first assignment fee and gives away so much game. Let's ring it for John Lewis.
Come on.
Amazing. Kristina, I want to ask you about a definition because I find it interesting. Alpha female. My sister, I feel, fits the description. My wife probably fits the description as well. Talk about that because, you know, it's interesting when you're a powerful woman and you have a voice and you say the things you're going to say and you don't give two shits about what some dude's going to think about it. You can get put into boxes, right? People will say, oh, that person's this, that person's that. Talk about that journey of what it means to stand in that power. And do you get flack for it? Do you have people, you know, say she's a B or, you know, what is that? What's the effects of that? And how can women that are watching this today empower themselves to fit that description? Because I feel every one of them does.
Yeah. So, all right. So here's the thing about the alpha female term is that a lot of times like the alpha female has masculine energy. Like her masculine is a little bit higher, well, a lot higher than her feminine energy. Okay. And what that means is that we're killers in the boardroom. We're killers like making deals. We're closers. Like masculine energy is the business. It's not the emotion, right? So for a lot of my life, I blocked off emotion so I could perform, right? I was a performer. And when I say performer, I was like in competitive cheerleading, all kinds of stuff. Can you please stop, dog? And so all this stuff, like he's really trying to get my attention. I'm like, yo, I'm trying to finish here. I should have put him up. So.
Oh, there's the look.
Sorry.
Right there, guys.
I just don't want him to like keep screaming. So I'm like trying to call him over here. But anyways, so the whole thing is like the alpha female is that her masculine energy. So she's really trying to kill it, period. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's just a process of things. So personally, I'm sure people have called me a bitch. They've never said it to my face. Cool. I really don't care. One of the things that I've done I just desensitized myself because I didn't really care what people thought about me. Like I'm living so in my purpose that what people say doesn't have any effect on anything. Like I never asked, I didn't tell my parents that I spent $90,000 on credit cards when I first got into the business. Why? Because I didn't want anybody to tell me anything. I didn't care. I didn't need you to co-sign. I put that stuff on my own. You know what I mean? Like no one had to co-sign for my vision or my mission or the impact that I'm doing.
Fired me up.
Like at the end of the day, I don't need a co-signer and y'all don't either. So when it comes to alpha female thing, I think it's not really a glorified term. I don't think. But at the end of the day, like I am just who I am. And a part of it was that I really did need to really reel into emotion. Like I needed to be a little bit more emotional because I had blocked that off for so long. But it's not it's just who you are at your core. It's that you care, but that you also get shit done, and you're effective when you get shit done.
Incredible.
Really
Love it.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And there's so many people fired up in the chat right now. I love that line. I don't need a cosign. Woo, that made like all
and
the
not because of money. Not because of money, because if you need a cosigner for money, cool. But you don't need a cosigner for your vision or for anything else. If you're in a season where you're at the bottom, you're in the gutter right now. If you need a cosigner, that's fine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a cosigner for the vision that you have for your life. No one has to believe in you. You need to believe in yourself.
That's right.
Yep. That's it. And that's what's beautiful about this business. You could go and knock on a door and get a deal, and 7 years later, you have 270 of them.
You're the baddest. You're the baddest. We're like, dude, she's one of the baddest guests we've had on Wholesale Hotline.
Oh yeah.
Other than Zach Keeps, I don't know another that has accumulated the portfolio Kristina's has accumulated. That's doing all of this with a virtual team that still had time to go on 4 appointments last week,
and still loves it. People are like, why haven't we seen her? Because she's out working. That's why.
You guys saw her today. Kristina, what's your IG?
It's just Kristina Aguilera _. That's it.
Let's get that in the comments, guys. Everybody give Kristina a follow.
And take a picture. Share it. Share it. Give her some love. Incredible. 7 years.
Thank you, guys.
That's what I say. If you grind 7 years, you're going to be set up. I'm telling every time. I'm telling you, if you stay consistent, you stay focused. Not only that, but then
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and you went through a divorce, you went through working on yourself, you went through all these things, and also still staying an alpha female, doing the business, building this thing up, keeping your vision alive. You know what you're doing out there. You know what I mean? Keeping that confidence, even going through all that. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
You guys,
go
ahead, Kristina.
No. I was just gonna say, I think that once you like do the work and you really understand like why you're doing anything, and like, so a lot of times like everybody, you hear that, like everybody's like, oh, find your why, and then everybody's like, it's my family is my why. Okay, first of all, your kids are gonna grow up and they're gonna leave.
Yep.
And your wife needs to pursue her own passions as well. Okay. So let's really figure out what it is. And like for, Paige, Jamil, like all of us, it's very similar. It's like to impact people that can never pay us back. Like at the core of everything, like I don't need you to write me a check at the end of the day. Like just listen, you can make so much money off of the free content that we put out here. Like so much money, literally so much money off of this. And so you literally can scale out an entire business, and maybe you don't want that many deals. Maybe you don't want 200. Honestly, I question my sanity a lot of times why I even bought 200 houses plus. And I'm sure eventually I'll sell them all. But the reality is if you get to the core of everything, you need to figure out what sets your soul on fire. Like truly, genuinely sets your soul on fire that you would do for free if you weren't broke. Don't think about what you would do for, like if you're not even going to be able to think in that mind space, but something that when you're in that environment, you're just so happy.
Kristina, could I ask you if you'd be interested in doing something?
Yeah.
So you mentioned you're on the healing journey. You're constantly doing it. I want to gift everybody that's interested in a sound healing with Kristina. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pay for it. Guys, send Sammy a DM right now, right? Wholesale Hotline. Send her a DM, Wholesale Hotline. Kristina, I want you there in that virtual sound bath, and I want you to have a healing session with everybody, men and women that want to be a part of that view tonight, that felt inspired from that journey. It's on me. I'll take care of that, but that's just a gift from us to you guys.
That's gonna be so dope. I literally messaged her today, and I was like, "Yep, I'm Jamil and Pace's friend. We're like the same person. But I was just thinking, maybe I'll just do some sound bowls."
I love that. That's so great.
Can we put her IG up in the comments?
Yeah, I did that, and then I also shared her screen on this. I shared her Instagram.
No, she was talking about Sammy.
Oh, you want Sammy up on the screen?
Yeah, so that we're gonna do a sound healing for all the folks that watched and are inspired to do that.
No problem. Let me pull that up.
It's the 2.0 one, Pace. The first one, sneaky.
Got it.
Yep. Sam_E_pants 2.0. Awesome.
Got it. I found
Take
it.
us home.
That's it, guys.
Awesome.
What an incredible 90 minutes that we just spent together. I mean, listen, we just like Kristina said, we could show you absolutely every single step to this business. But if this isn't right, I mean, you get nowhere. If you're not going to take the action, if you're not going to actually go out there and really make an impact and really serve your community, then you're just spinning wheels. So go out, take what we talked about over the last 90 minutes and go make an impact tomorrow. Even if it's just one person, even if it's your neighbor, even if it's just somebody that you know that needs some help right now, go make that impact. I'm telling you, that's what gets it going. That's what starts this momentum. It just all starts with a little push. And I hope that this did it for you. It certainly does it for me, Kristina. I'm on fire right now. I'm like, I don't need a cosign for anything.
I don't need a cosigner.
I don't need a cosign.
You ain't gonna tell me. You ain't telling me nothing.
This is my vision.
Hell no.
Come on. I love it. So thank you, Kristina. We love you so much. You're so incredible. And everybody is better off hearing you and your story. So thank you so much on behalf of Jamil and Pace. That's it. Wholesale Hotline number 86 with Kristina Aguilera. We love you. See ya.
Peace.
Love everybody. See you.
Or just say squat up.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
What are you doing?
I didn't say nothing.
Why?
I don't know. I
Okay.
forgot.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Cool. I think we should use